Nothing says welcome to the greatest city in the world like a podcast booth in an exhibition hall.
I've been taking a lot of grief about my takes on agentic AI lately.
We still underestimate what the impact of GLP-1s is going to be on retail.
If you stuck around to the
If
end.
you got here, it's
right.
still inside baseball. I have literally no idea how we've gone from Aldi's corporate structure to Danny DeVito Tatis.
Hello and welcome to the Omni Talk Retail Fast 5. This week's episode was recorded from my favorite city in the world, London, with one of my all-time favorite guest hosts, my brother from another mother across the pond, ShopTalk's VP of Original Content, Ben Miller. Ben and I talked a little ShopTalk Europe, Danny DeVito tattoos, and all the week's top retail headlines at the end of a long day, which saw me interview over 10 fabulous retail executives right from the floor of the Retail Technology Show. All of which you can find by going to youtube.com/OmniTalkRetail. Thanks to Fusion and RTS for putting me up in a fabulous podcast studio and helping me to interview every main stage keynote executive as they came off stage. So let's not keep you in suspense any longer. Let's get to the headlines right after we hear from all our wonderful partners who make this podcast possible each and every week. This episode of the Omni Talk Retail Fast 5 is brought to you by the A&M Consumer and Retail Group. The A&M Consumer and Retail Group is a management consulting firm that tackles the most complex challenges and advances its clients, people, and communities toward their maximum potential. CRG brings the experience, tools, and operator-like pragmatism to help retailers and consumer products companies be on the right side of disruption. And Miracle, the catalyst of commerce. Over 450 retailers are opening new revenue streams with marketplaces, dropship, and retail media, and succeeding. With Miracle, you can unlock more products, more partners, and more profits without the heavy lifting. So what's holding you back? Visit miracle.com to learn more. That's MIRAKL.com. And Corso, your stores are full of data, but are your teams acting on it? Corso turns retail data into personalized daily to-dos that drive sales, reduce waste, and improve execution. No fluff, just action. Help your managers focus on what matters most. Visit Corso.com to see intelligent management in motion. And Infios. At Infios, they unite warehousing, transportation, and order management into a seamless, adaptable network. Infios helps you stay ahead from promise to delivery and every step in between. To learn more, visit Infios.com. And Ocampo Capital. Ocampo Capital is a venture capital firm founded by retail executives with the aim of helping early-stage consumer businesses succeed through investment and operational support. Learn more at ocampocapital.com. And finally, Veloc. Veloc is a proven e-grocery technology built by grocers for grocers. Exactly the type of technology we like here at Omni Talk. They unite proprietary software with right-sized automation to make same-day delivery profitable. To learn more, visit Veloc.com. That's VELOQ.com. Crikey. They said it couldn't be done. Ben Miller, live in London, sitting right next to me. How's the form, as they say over here?
Oh, Christopher Walton, a jolly fine hello on this fine evening for you, and welcome to London. I appreciate you having me on, and nothing says welcome to the greatest city in the world like a podcast booth in an exhibition hall.
Yeah, the greatest city in the world. That's like a line from Hamilton. Yes, the greatest city in the world. Oh, man. All right, so we are now less than 2 months away, right, from ShopTalk Europe as well. What's in store? What are you most excited about for ShopTalk Europe, Ben? You're kind of the one of the many men and women of the hour at that show, at that conference.
It's coming up really quick.
Yeah.
So we are 9th to the 11th of June this year, back in Barcelona. Fabulous Barcelona. I guess for me, there's two things I'm really looking forward to.
Okay.
So number one, like the conversation that we had about AI in retail in Vegas at ShopTalk Spring was incredible. You know, it was nuanced, it was interesting, people were sharing. I'm so interested to hear what that conversation is in Europe. You know, one of the challenges you have in Europe is some of the solutions, they're not available yet.
Right.
You know, some of the platforms haven't been rolled out yet.
Right.
So the things that you can do and the speed that you want to move at in Europe is different. So hearing how European retailers are tackling that, I think is going to be absolutely fascinating. We've got an absolutely remarkable
Oh yeah.
lineup
Oh, like
this
who?
year.
Okay,
Lineup
this is
year.
what I always love when
Okay,
you come on. I'm always like,
So-
okay, who's gonna be there?
We've got L'Oreal, IKEA, Nestle. We've got the co-CEO of Zalando.
Oh, wow.
Carrefour, Sephora, Shopify, Netflix, Reddit, Nvidia. It's brilliant lineup. Really looking forward. So that's number one. Number two,
Yeah.
we're gonna have the mother of all after show parties this year.
Really?
We are. But that's another day
Can
and
you
another
tell
story.
us that, or is that just the biggest tease of
That's
all
the
time?
biggest tease of all time.
Oh, you're such a tease. You're teasing me, Mr. Miller. All right. Well, that sounds awesome. I mean, Carrefour's been in our headlines like multiple times over the past few weeks, so that's a huge get too. They're doing some really great things on the smart storefront, and of course the smart shopping carts down in Israel that they announced as well.
Yeah, and we've got Justin, she runs e-commerce in Spain. Used to run e-commerce in Italy. She's fantastic. So she's one of our track speakers at the show.
Awesome. So should we get to this week's headlines, Ben?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
It's like 6 p.m. here in London. Let's do this. All right. In this week's Fast Five, we've got news on Starbucks launching a beta app inside ChatGPT, Instacart making its most aggressive international move, or leap. See what I did there, Ben? Today, when they announced the acquisition of Colombia-based retail tech platform InstaLeap, and Walmart giving its iconic great value private label brand its first full redesign in more than a decade. Oh, and let me also not forget Aldi quietly using its U.S. stores as the testing ground for a new global store format. I saved that one for you, Ben.
Thank you.
But we begin today with Walmart making a major play in the GLP-1 and weight management space. All right. Got to clear my throat there, Ben. It's been a long day of speaking. All right. Walmart is expanding its Better Care Services platform to include weight management support for customers on or exploring GLP-1 therapies, connecting its nearly 4,600 store pharmacy network with virtual care providers, nutrition support, same-day medication delivery, all under one digital destination. According to Walmart's corporate website, the Better Care Services platform now features weight management support from 5 third-party providers spanning personalized fitness programming, registered dietitian services, AI-supported coaching, and telehealth-based medication management. The platform also includes access to a full range of GLP medications, including the newly available oral option, Ben. Yes, it's the newly available oral option Foundeo, or Fulgropron, for those that like when I mispronounce generic drug names, which I was waiting to do, all of which are available through insurance or transparent cash pay pricing. All right, Ben, here's my question for you. In your Shop Talk Zeitgeist, which you gave just back in March, so less than 2 months ago, you said that GLP-1s was one of the top 6 or 7 trends that would impact retail over the next decade. So I'm guessing you love this move from Walmart. My only question is how much?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You've guessed it. I love it, and I love it a lot. So let's take back to some of the points that we made in the presentation back in March.
Yeah.
Why do we think GLP-1s is going to have such an impact on the retail market? I mean, firstly, look at the growth numbers. So Morgan Stanley currently predicts that the 2 to 3% of the US population that are taking GLP-1s over the next decade could grow to 20%. Okay. At the moment, it's about 1% globally. That could grow to 10%.
Jesus.
So, huge growth. Okay. Now, what we do in the Zeitgeist is we look at, what do we think are the big trends and what do we project them forward? And the point that I was trying to land in the Zeitgeist is that I think collectively as an industry, we still underestimate what the impact of GLP-1s is going to be on retail. So let me kind of unpack this.
Yeah.
Just this week, McKinsey published some brand new research. They looked at 21 food and beverage categories to look at what the spend trend is for people who've been on GLP-1s for over 6 months. Of the 24 categories, only 4 had seen an increase in spend.
Okay.
And of those, yogurt had seen the biggest increase, but that increase was only 2.5%.
Okay.
On the other side, it was negative 11.5% for crisps and savoury snacks.
Okay.
It was negative 8.5% for sweet bakery. So, look, what why do I love this headline? I love this headline because clearly Walmart doesn't underestimate this impact. Walmart has recognized it, and it's connecting its digital ecosystem in a way that it can, because of the properties that it's built, to really help customers to understand, and at the same time to learn more about what's going on.
So Ben, I'm curious. Does that mean that Walmart and others are also just at risk from GLP-1 in terms of declining revenue overall, as people are just starting to eat less as well?
Yeah. So one of the things we found, people are eating less, but what they are prioritizing is small portions, on the go, convenient solutions, products that help with digestive, ease digestive solutions. So diets are changing, that people are buying more often, so it leads itself to more convenient products, more fresh, which are higher margin. So there's some massive category shifts. If you follow those shifts and provide the solutions that people need, there's actually margin gains to be made there. But it's about recognizing and not underestimating. That was the point I was trying to make.
Right. And the pharmacy keeps the foot traffic coming to the Walmart store too.
And can I just say, as a final point, because I'd really love to hear what you think of this, but I love anything that connects the pharmacy to the rest of the store. Look, because running a pharmacy, it's a hard business. It's hard, people, cost, can be dangerous. Anything that provides a greater halo than just footfall, I think it's a real positive, and I love the Walmart leading into that.
Yeah. I mean, 100% on the pharmacy side. I mean, I don't have much to add. I mean, that's why I wanted you to share the data that I know you always bring to the table on this, because it is really interesting to think about, And then there's also the question that I have too, which I didn't ask you about, which I'd love to get your thoughts on maybe at the end, is like, you get all these reports, and in some ways all these reports happening at the same time get a little bit self-enforcing in terms of the predictions that everyone's making around the severity or the impact. And so you always have to take that with a grain of salt. But to your point, you're saying like there's going to be a palpable impact here. So I like it because Walmart is basically attacking what is a sizable trend through their pharmacy, which engenders loyalty in their customer. I think it's pretty remarkable given the effort, and some would say failed efforts, they put into their clinics as well, and now they're doing this digitally. So I think that's important. It's an asset light approach to doing this, which is very different than where they were like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I love that.
And then the other point I'd make too, the second thing I make is Walmart has done a great job of learning how to speak to their customer digitally, and specifically via the Walmart Plus subscriber too. So I think this is very much who this is geared after, even though you're saying in those numbers, you're probably hitting the broad base of America too, and the broad base of consumers globally.
Yeah.
But that is who you're gearing this towards. And Walmart Plus, it's going to come up again later too as part of their strategy, but you can see how they're continuing to try to lean into that as kind of their competitive moat, so to speak, in the landscape.
Okay, we're going to move on headline number 2. Starbucks has launched a beta app within ChatGPT. It allows customers to describe their mood or upload a photo to receive personalized drink suggestions, and then customize and then begin the order in ChatGPT before completing checkout in the Starbucks app or on starbucks.com. So according to Starbucks, the beta app launched on April 15th and is accessible by enabling it through ChatGPT's app directory and then tagging at Starbucks in the prompt. Critically, as I just said, checkout does not happen within ChatGPT. Customers complete the purchase in a Starbucks app on starbucks.com, which means Starbucks retains all the first-party loyalty data, and it keeps the transaction in its own ecosystem. And Chris,
yes,
here we go. This is also the A&M.
I love when the guest host puts me on the spot. That's
yes,
great.
I've been waiting to do this. Right, the A&M put you on the spot question. So firstly, they've asked me to imagine that I'm not in a coffee shop, I'm in a tea store.
Okay.
A very British tea shop. So to play into the full Britishness.
That sounds like A&M to me.
So thank you, Chad. Okay, here we go. Given the high usage and historical praise of Starbucks mobile app, are these ChatGPT and other agentic AI integrations a more offensive or defensive play? So look, in other words, do Starbucks and other brands believe that consumers truly are looking for more inspiration and discovery when they're on the AI platform compared to when they're on the apps? Therefore, it's incremental, or keep going.
Wow.
or that customer journeys will eventually go direct to the apps less in favor of these platforms, so they'll have to integrate everything to avoid losing traffic.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I've been taking a lot of grief from some folks that I know pretty well about my takes on agentic AI lately, Ben.
Okay, interesting.
Like, I had a friend of mine who I respect a lot. He told me, and he works for a data company, which I won't say who they are. I won't say his name either. But he said his boss called him and said, dude, Walton's totally wrong on his takes. So I don't know what I'm missing here, because I don't like this move, Ben.
Okay.
I think that's my answer to the question. And, especially if I was lauding Starbucks last week for their weekly pay, and they're increasing their barista bonuses.
Absolutely. So good. Good.
And so this move smells of, I think it's important to put it in context. This move smells to me of tech teams not being aligned to the business problems and kind of chasing the shiny tech that's out there. I don't like it because of all the reasons I've expressed on past shows, and which gets to the heart of the question that A&M is asking, which is, does the consumer really need this inside of a ChatGPT experience or some other LLM experience? I don't think so. You could ultimately do that in the Starbucks app. So I don't get why the traffic is necessarily going to go here to do this. So it begs the question to me, why? Why now? Why do you need to do this? It's not make or break for you, Starbucks, at this point in time. Why be the first penguin in the water? That's the reason I don't like it.
Interesting. I mean, look, in principle, I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I don't entirely agree. I mean,
okay. No, it's fine. I don't know what I think anymore on this one.
Look at the bare numbers. There's 800 million people on ChatGPT every week.
Right.
So it's really hard to walk away from that levels of eyeballs, that level of traffic. And look, agentic commerce, we've already hit one of the really big talking points in our industry. Agentic commerce is another one.
Yeah.
And what became super clear in Vegas is we don't know what the end game is going to be. Nobody knows what the end game is.
No.
One thing that became really clear, though, is you can't risk not being part of the conversation and not trying things, because one of these solutions might suddenly be the one that works, and if you stepped out of that conversation, you're playing catch up, and the speed at which it's moving. So there is that jeopardy. Having said that,
right, okay, all right. There's always a but, Ben. There's always a but.
The but is I don't love the in-app approach either.
You don't?
Okay. Personally, I think there is too much friction for this to be the end game. It doesn't feel like this is where things are going to end up. Yeah. I'm not going to get in the weeds on Starbucks' actual application.
Yeah.
I think everybody needs to test things at the moment.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to see it, Scott Wingo has done a great video on his LinkedIn. He goes through it. He shows you what it is. He gives it 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10.
2 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
And we know how good the Starbucks digital experience is. So, look, have a look at that if you want to get in the weeds on the actual tool.
Yeah.
As a direction of travel, I think every brands have got to understand how they show up in agentic commerce. In apps, I'm not there on yet.
Yeah, see, I get the whole thing about, like, you need to experiment, you need to show up, but do you really? Like, do you need to do it right now? Because, like, like the other point I bring up, like, I can remember just even a few years ago, like with TikTok, people were complaining about how TikTok was inspiring all these crazy drink formulations that people were bringing into the stores, and it was causing the baristas headaches. So, like, if you think about this and you're like, oh, I'm experimenting with this and it works, you're going to have that problem exponentially. Yeah. And you don't want that. So I don't really get what the end game here is in the experimentation, other than to say, oh, we're experimenting.
And that really leads, look, there's a couple of other things that a couple of other issues I've got with this. And okay, it's beta, that's fine.
Yeah.
Number one, the merchant in me is still worried about how ruthless Brian Nichols and the team are being with the range rationalization at Starbucks. One of the problems, one of the issues that caused the operational challenges that Starbucks are having, particularly in the US, is that they'd overranged. The range was far too great. If you go on the Starbucks website, it says this new ChatGPT app, and I'm going to quote here, is a new way to discover your next favorite drink. Starbucks, you've got to take a step back.
Right.
You're a coffee shop. You shouldn't need agentic commerce to help people understand what your products that you sell. If that's the case, you've overcomplicated it, and that just creates those operational pressures.
Mic drop. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this gets killed sooner rather than later. I really wouldn't. But mark it down. We'll see if I'm right. See if I'm wrong. All right, let's keep moving on. Headline number 3. Instacart has announced the acquisition of InstaLeap, A Colombia-based global fulfillment and enablement platform that serves nearly 100 grocery retailers and marketplaces across 13 countries in Latin America, Europe, and the Middle East. According to Grocery Dive, the deal gives Instacart an immediate foothold with established retailer relationships outside North America, including Cencosud, I hope I'm saying that correctly, Ben, in Latin America, Continente in Portugal, my favorite Portuguese retailer, and Geronimo Martins, Lulu, and Spar. Instacart's chief commercial officer, Ryan Hamburger, said the company has already seen growing global demand for its enterprise products, including Storefront Pro and Caper Carts, with early traction for Caper in Europe and Australia, and its first Storefront Pro launches outside North America with Costco in France and Spain, which I believe we covered on this show. Over time, Instacart plans to bring its broader suite of enterprise technologies, including Carrot Ads, connected stores, and AI and data solutions to InstaLeap's international retail partners.
Of course.
Ben, buy or sell Instacart's acquisition of InstaLeap as a smart step forward for Instacart?
Yeah, I'm buying.
Okay.
So let me take you through.
Okay.
I think it's a really interesting story.
Okay.
And part of the interest in the story is when you view how quick commerce, delivery, connections, and profitability is playing out in the grocery space. So one thing that we know is that no matter what your fulfillment route is, ensuring that your in-store operations are as efficient as possible is absolutely critical for grocery retailers. Okay, so therefore, seeing Instacart continue to develop and invest in that part of its proposition, I think is huge. Now, if you take this acquisition in isolation, it's always really hard to judge an acquisition without knowing how much you paid for it.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah,
the financial terms for this haven't been disclosed, so. I'm going to talk about strategically and directionally, with that kind of quite big caveat.
Right.
Instacart has been building momentum.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we should absolutely think about, and I hope everybody's taken enough notice of, is the fact that Aldi US went with Storefront Pro.
Yeah, we talked about that too.
For that, that's huge. It's a huge signal that Aldi are moving the entire operating model for their e-com to Instacart. And you already mentioned Costco in Europe. So I see this as the next step in that journey. So then it comes to what is Instacart buying for how much we don't know. Okay, so it's buying scale.
Right.
And crucially, it's buying relationships. Grocery relationships are really hard. Hard fought, hard build. Here's 100 retailers, 30 countries, outside the US, strength in LATAM, strength in the Middle East. That's a really, really big step forward. So that's a big tick for me.
Yeah, hard to dislodge too. Right, grocery relationships are hard to dislodge, especially in this front when who's running your website.
Yeah. Not only the website, the full fulfillment and the store solutions to enable it.
Right.
You mentioned upsell. Of course, there's upsell, retail media play. We can come back to that one. The bit that really intrigued me was you're fast tracking your international book of business. Great, but what about the tech? Is there something new coming into Instacart that they're buying from the tech as well? And I know InstaLeap is highly considered. So, look,
that's interesting.
And you were going to talk. You told me we were going to talk about this one, so I asked the Instacart team outright.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Nice.
And they said, look, they are excited about the fulfillment elements that InstaLeap have developed. So order managing, picking, routing, these things are built.
So it's more that side of things.
So there's two elements to it. I think the right term is an Instacart spokesperson said, and I think the quote is like, over time we expect to consolidate the tech stacks into a single unified platform that brings together the best of both products. So it looks like you've got an acquisition that gives a needed shot in the arm for international expansion. It's aligned with a profitable kind of platform strategy play, and it brings in tech that can also help develop the core offer. So, without knowing how much they're paid to achieve all that, that feels like a good place to be.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think I think I'm going to agree with you, Ben. I think I'm going to agree with you.
I sense reluctantly.
Yeah. No. I mean, Instacart knows this too. Like, I love hate really. I love them. I like talking to them. I always enjoy whenever I get the chance to interview them. But some of the things I've had questions about over the years, and so But I think this is a smart move. I think it is. I think for the reasons you said. I mean, one, it's growth via acquisition, which I think is important in and of itself because, as I mentioned in the headline read too, it's been tough for Instacart to crack this market. And it sounds like, as you're discussing, there's probably some IP that they're grabbing here in terms of how the tech works, and there's also just the IP of the relationships themselves, which is a great point because I don't think you can discount that at all. And then the other point too, which I was actually surprised you mentioned it, but you only mentioned it briefly, was retail media. That's what scales. So as you conglomerate all these platforms together from a software standpoint, the retail media is the engine that drives the profitability of Instacart in the long run. So you're going to get more scale in that because the brands now can position their retail media across more options globally too, which I think has to be a part of this, right, Ben? I mean, you know that better than I do.
Yeah, I completely agree. The potential to scale, particularly Carrot Ads, and that media play is huge. And I think I would just one more point.
Yeah.
To help you with that final, make the final decision.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ryan Hamburger, Chief Commercial Officer, in the intro. He's actually one of our speakers. At Shop Talk Europe. So he'll be on stage on the Wednesday. Maybe you should grab him, get an interview, ask him a question.
Yeah,
but everybody can come and hear directly from Ryan on this. At Shop Talk Europe.
Love to do that. Still not sold on the cart, which I had a big long conversation on the cart with somebody at Zebra yesterday. But still not sold on the cart. But I don't want to take us off topic, Ben.
No, that's
Let's go to the next headline.
I'm going to go straight. I'm going to plow straight into headline number 4, which is that Walmart has announced the first full redesign of its great value private label brand for more than a decade, with plans to roll out new, more modern and colourful packaging. How could it be anything but? Across nearly 10,000 grocery and household items over the next 18 to 24 months. So a bit more detail. According to a Walmart corporate blog post, the new packaging designs were unveiled on April the 15th. Will begin rolling out from May, starting with salty snacks, which is interesting with the GLP-1 conversation, before expanding category by category into more than 100 product categories. The new packaging is specifically designed to improve what Walmart calls shoppability, making it easier for customers to identify products in store and on the aisles. Customer research was the catalyst. While shoppers ranked Great Value highly on price and quality, many said that they didn't feel particularly proud to display it in their homes. So, Chris, do you think a Great Value packaging redesign will help get more people to buy more Great Value products from Walmart?
Oh, man. That's a tough one. I don't actually know if it'll get them to buy more products because, but I think at the end of the day, I like this move because I don't think it's not going to make them buy less products. I don't think. Okay. At the end of the day, it's not going to hurt anything. I mean, the article said 9 out of 10 U.S. households already buy it. So, I mean, how much room is there to grow when 9 out of 10 are already buying it? I guess you can get them to buy it more often, which I think is the play here, and I alluded to it before, because you're going after the upper demo. If you read between the lines of this, we're not proud to show it in our pantries, which means we're not proud to highlight it to when we have guests in the house.
You're right.
And so that's the upper demographic that they're trying to get after, and they're going after, because of the success they've had with Walmart Plus. They want people to feel more pride in having it in their house. And so it's not going to hurt anything. If it does move the needle, which it very well could, it helps people to save money, helps Walmart make more money, and then look out, because that's more margin for Walmart, and also more media dollars from the CPGs who are not going to want to let that happen.
Yeah,
you're not going to want to see the territory to Great Value. So that the flywheel just keeps on churning. So I think it's a really smart move from a profitability perspective. Yeah. Whether they sell more Great Value product, I think actually, as I'm talking this out loud, Ben, I think possibly. Yeah. I think to the upper income demos for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, firstly, I love we're talking about private label.
Yeah,
that's another one of the big things. We've
I don't
got
talk
to
about
keep
private
talking
label
about
very
it.
often. Yeah,
we must keep talking about it as an industry more. But let's talk about Walmart first because it's Walmart.
Yeah.
Because the scale, because it's 10,000 products, because it's their core Great Value item, then it's a story.
Right.
Yeah. But it's really not a story in some ways. I mean, look. 30 years ago, I sat, my desk in the marketing team at a grocery retailer was next to the packaging design team.
Yeah.
They were on a constant cycle of redeveloping packaging for the private labels.
Right.
It's not news, it's just how you run a private label business.
Right.
Yeah. So scale makes it notable. Walmart makes it notable, but it's just how you should be doing. Having said that, to do it now is a huge signal. And for that, to read the signal, you've got to look at what the CPGs did.
Yeah.
So we had inflation out of COVID. CPGs took the price increase. The branded CPGs took the price, and they've grown through price. So if you sit here now and you read the financial results of any of the big branded CPGs, there's growth coming from two places. One, value, i.e. price. It's not volume. Two, digital. Coming back to the conversation we were having earlier in the Instacart bonus. Right. That's where the growth is. Now, in the last 6 months, we'd hit a point where CPGs, it felt like the conversation that they'd realised that they'd realised price had been touched too far and the differential to private label had opened up too much. And that was happening just at a time that the inflationary pressures, thankfully, had eased off. Okay, the world's changed in the last month. We're suddenly in an environment where inflationary pressures are coming in. This is a critical time. Right. Walmart is saying, okay, we're going big on our private label.
Right.
The industry cannot risk pushing price too much. Otherwise, that differential is going to increase even further, and you're seeing the investment that's going in. So like that, for me, is the big story. It's watching how that goes. Now, having said that, I also slightly don't agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
dare you?
I mean, okay, great. 9 out of 10 households.
Right.
Yeah. But it doesn't tell you how many items.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't tell you what frequency.
Right.
It doesn't tell you how many categories they're buying into. Nobody's going to do a packaging redesign because they think they're going to sell less.
Right.
Yeah. So this is about modernization. It's about pushing. There's categories where it's fascinating. They're starting with crisps, with salty snacks and crisps. Mm-hmm. You know, a category being hit by the GLP-1 impact. You know, I hope that they recognize why it's been hit rather than just saying, oh, here's another performer, let's put the investment there.
Right.
But they're smart people, so I'm sure they do.
Right.
Yeah. If they get this right, it will help them grow penetration, grow frequency, and that's a real watch. And it's a real watch out for other grocers, because one of the things that sometimes gets lost in the conversation about private label is it's not just switching from branded to private label, it's switching store locations to retailers that have a higher private label mix. Like a limited line discounter, like a warehouse club.
Right.
So if you're sat in a major mall or even a regional grocery and you're thinking about, what do I know? How do I respond to this? It's so important to get that private label range back.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So there's a lot of points I heard you say there that I think are important just to reiterate. So like, one is the continued digital growth of grocery.
Yeah.
And showing up better there.
Huge.
One is the inflation impact. One, and then the other thing is the point that I think you and I both ended up making it. I came around to it at the end too.
You did.
Thank you for that. But it's right to disagree with me based on how I said it. But like, that there are more people that could be buying more great value products. My only question for you, Ben, is when they said that they haven't done this in 10 years, were they kind of derelict in not doing it sooner?
Yeah, that surprised me.
It surprised me too.
I think part of it is just the sheer scale of the range.
Right.
This is the core range.
It's a big undertaking.
So a big undertaking. And what stood out to me was, and I think I'd love the next time one of us is talking to a merchant at Walmart to understand, like, we're talking a 12 to 24 month rollout for this. I'd love to know how you can make that quicker. It feels like with the technological advances, with AI, that seems an awful long time to roll this out. Okay, 10,000 employees is a huge change, but it'd be interesting to know what is Walmart doing anything different in the process to be able to improve this?
Yeah, well, and then there's also the correlating things that are changing in terms of packaging design and requirements in the industry as well, and how they're syncing all those up. So this is not an easy undertaking by any means.
Agreed.
In any way, shape, or form.
Agreed.
All right, headline number 5. Aldi South Group is using its U.S. stores as the testing ground for a new globally unified store format. Developed over 14 years in partnership with Australian design firm Landini Associates, with trials already underway in Aventura, Florida, and further U.S. rollout planned through 2026. Landini Associates, Ben,
yes.
For those wondering, I'm sad to say has no affiliation with the fictional law firm Bandini, Lambert, and Locke from the wonderful Tom Cruise film The Firm. Thank you very much. Anyway, according to Chain Stories, the new design is built on a modular, adaptable framework, meaning it can be scaled and reconfigured across different store sizes and building types. The format is designed to create greater some who could speak English would say greater brand consistency across all 5 of Aldi's South's global territories. The news also comes, this is important, as Aldi is in the middle of an enormous 2026 expansion push. The company plans to open more than 180 new stores this year, convert close to 80 former Southeastern grocer locations to the Aldi format, and reach nearly 2,800 total U.S. stores by year end, on its way to a target of 3,200 in just 2 years by 2028.
Yeah.
Oh, man. In 2025 alone, 17 million new customers visited Aldi for the very first time. 17 million. Ben, first question. I've got 2 questions for you to close us out.
Go for it.
Do you think Aldi gets enough credit in the U.S. for being the grocer that it is? And second, how scared should U.S. grocers, and even global grocers for that matter, be with this news?
Wow, that's okay. Wow, okay, big question. Look, Aldi is a phenomenal business.
Yeah.
And the Aldi subdivision is the most exciting, the most dynamic of the divisions. You know, it is years ahead of the Aldi Nord business. Low price, strong quality, amazingly cash generative as a business model, very long term in its strategic thinking. So I guess it's a very long way of saying if people don't recognize this and haven't given them credit by now, they're in for an increasingly rude awakening.
Right.
Yeah. So let me give you an example. Here in the UK, in London, Aldi opened its very first store in April 1990.
Okay.
So not that long ago, he says,
Wow.
sounding old. It's now grown to be one of the most competitive grocery markets in the world. It's got over 10% market share.
Jesus.
It's got over 1,000 stores, and it's on track at the moment to probably take over the number 3 position. So it looks like it's in the short term, in the medium term, it's going to displace Asda. So Asda, for those who remember, was Walmart's subsidiary here in the UK, and it's going to replace that as the number 3. Look, the US store growth is equally striking. So underestimate at your peril, super strong business. This particular story, look, really interesting. Couple of things. Landini, look, they are a globally renowned design organization. They're innovative. They've worked for Aldi for a long time. They've had a really long association with McDonald's. So like all the concept McDonald's stores around the world are stores that they've created.
Okay. Interesting.
If any of the listeners have been to the McDonald's in Sydney Airport, which is incredible, it's a multi-story. It's got this incredible machine that takes food cooked from downstairs. It's like an elevator.
Oh, really?
It's beautiful.
Wow.
They designed it.
Landini designed
yeah,
that?
they designed it.
Nice. So they get formats and modularity then. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah. And you know, I think that, and I know when we were chatting about this earlier, so I'm not going to steal your thunder, the modularity element of this. That's the bit to listen out for. But I'm going to let you cover that, and we'll talk about that more.
Well, I think I 100% agree with everything you said. The point that you unlocked for me in a more palpable way than I thought about before I came into this podcast, which is why I love doing this podcast, is when you told me they have 1,000 stores in the UK, and they're still only targeting like 3,200 in the States, it still seems like there's room to grow.
Oh, yeah.
Even you agree, even more so.
Yeah.
And that's why modularity is going to be so important, because it's 100% aligned strategically to where the growth has to come from, and that is through the acquisition of existing grocers regionally whose footprints aren't of the prototype design of a typical Aldi box.
You got it.
And I know that's true, and here's how I know that's true. The part I'll bring to the table here is I had the chance to interview Aldi's VP of Real Estate, Dan Gavin, at a conference a couple years ago, and he basically told us that was the fact. Like, that was the problem with all these acquisitions that they made, is that they had to think about this because the box wasn't going to work the way it was. And so if there is that room to grow, which there's got to be, this is the way to do it. Now, the big question, though, like you said with Instacart, we don't know how much they paid. We don't know if it works. We don't know that this new format is working, or that it's going to continue to work. You got to think that there's a high probability that it's going to, given all these track record. Though.
Yeah, I think you would too. It's based on the Aldi Sud concept stores in Australia, which are really good stores. I think Aldi have traditionally a cookie cutter approach, and that's what drives the synergies. So this modular idea, i.e., we can put the Aldi footprint into more varied real estate, is fascinating. And the final thing it's got me thinking about this. There has been rumour and speculation for months now that Aldi Sud and Aldi Nord might finally come together.
Oh, wow.
So, look, very, very quick. For people who are not familiar to the story, Aldi was created by the Albrecht brothers. The brothers fell out. One brother took the north, one brother took the south. So, mostly in non-overlapping territories.
Right.
This is a business that if you put the two bits together, the buying scale alone. So the fact that they're building this in a modular basis, it could be about small acquisitions, but it could also be about how do we take the best performing concept in the whole group and help put it into more stores.
Set that up for success too. Right.
Yeah. If I had £1 for every time Aldi Nord and Aldi Sud were going to come together as being rumoured, I wouldn't need to be doing this with you today, sir. Despite how great it is.
Right.
But genuinely, I think there's been more talk now than there has been for quite some time on that.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about this, though, if you step back from it, is modularity does not generally go hand in hand with scale. So there is something that you are trying to inherently crack the code on if you're going to use this in the way that we're hypothesizing that
we're
going to use it, right?
Absolutely.
All right, let's go to the lightning round. Ben, a tattoo artist inked a portrait of Danny DeVito on his or her, it doesn't say, on a client's big toe. Danny DeVito on your big toe, Ben. Ben, do you have any tattoos? And if not, and you were ever to get one, what would you get?
I have literally no idea how we've gone from Aldi's corporate structure to Danny DeVito tattoos. No, Chris, I did not.
You did not. I did think you did, which is why I asked you the second part.
Yeah. And I think my window for tattoos looking good is probably closed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the saggy arms and everything, right? Yeah, I know.
Thank you. Right, moving on. Chris, earlier this week, it was announced that after 15 years in role and having added a cool $3.5 trillion, that's trillion with a T, to its market capitalization, Tim Cook is going to step down as Apple CEO. Chris, what is the one Apple product you could not live without?
It's got to be my phone, right? It's got to be your phone too, right?
It's got to be the iPhone.
Yeah. Although I couldn't even go off a MacBook now either, I don't think, if I had to.
And I couldn't probably surrender my AirPods either.
Yeah. Oh, really? See, I'm not a big AirPod guy.
I love my AirPods.
Yeah, really? Okay. All right. Next one. Eddie Murphy received a Lifetime Achievement Award by the American Film Institute last week. Ben, what is your Mount Rushmore of Eddie Murphy movies? And if you don't know what Mount Rushmore is, Ben, it's the big statue of 4 presidents in South Dakota. So 4 favorite Eddie Murphy movies.
Yes, thank you very much, Chris. I do know what Mount Rushmore is. One, it's got to be, I'm going to go right back, Beverly Hills Cop.
Yes, 100%.
But the original. Got to be the original.
Okay.
Eddie Murphy, Axel Foley.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Okay, that's just one.
Yeah, that's just one.
Just give me one. All right.
All
right. Well,
look, when you've got something that high, you don't need to go out anywhere else.
Okay, all right. It's just one marble Eddie Murphy, Axel Foley stands above everyone else.
Just one single president.
I don't even know if it's marble. I don't know what Mount Rushmore. It's granite, I think. But anyway, all right.
All right, go on. Chris, so I understand the next stop in the Walton World Tour is Berlin?
Yes, it is. Walton World Tour. That's great. Yes.
What is your favorite German food?
Oh, man. Oh, my God. I like a good schnitzel.
Nice.
I do. I do like a good schnitzel. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to getting some schnitzel. And does beer count as a food? Because I like the beer gardens over there, too.
The big ones are very good.
Yeah. Food and drink, I guess.
Very good.
All right. Today's podcast was produced with the help and support, of course, of our great producer, Ella Siriord. Ella couldn't be with us today because we're on location. She's in a completely different time zone. But, we couldn't do this without her, and we want to thank her for her help in producing this podcast at the end of the day and in time for you all to enjoy. Happy birthday today to Amber Heard, Jack Nicholson, and to Lance Guess's love interest in The Last Starfighter, the great Catherine Mary Stewart. Ben. And remember, if you could only read or listen to one retail blog in the business, make it Omni Talk. Our Fast 5 podcast is the quickest, fastest rundown of all the week's top news, and our daily newsletter, The Retail Daily Minute, tells you all you need to know each day to stay on top of your game as a retail executive, and also regularly features special content that is exclusive to us and that we all take a ton of pride in doing just for you. Thanks as always for listening in. Please remember to like and leave us a review wherever you happen to listen to your podcast or on YouTube. You can follow us today by simply going to youtube.com/OmniTalkRetail. Ben, before we let you go, if people want to join you in Barcelona for Shop Talk Europe in June, what's the best way for them to do that?
Great. So europe.shoptalk.com takes you directly to our European webpage, or just hit shoptalk.com and select Shop Talk Europe. it's nice. We've got 7 weeks till show, so all of the ticket types are currently open. And for retailers and brands, the application process for our hosted program, which is the free tickets and support with travel expenses, that closes in the middle to end of May. So you've absolutely got time to do that, but it's better to get your application in sooner rather than later. And just, one final.
Okay.
It's like a little inside.
If you stuck around to the end.
If you got here, here's a little inside baseball. If you're coming to Barcelona, and I hope you join us, we're in the same venue.
Okay.
Yep, so the Fira, Grand Via. Beautiful venue,
Yep.
beautiful Barcelona. We're in a different bit. We've grown. So we're in a different bit of the building,
Okay.
which means a different entrance.
Okay.
Yeah. So in your joining instructions, it will tell you how to get to the entrance. Don't go to where you usually do on autopilot.
Oh, no.
Or you'll have the big sign saying, please go around the corner.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. I was at the hotel directly across from that entrance, Ben. Oh, no. But hey, I'll adjust because that's what we do here at Omni Talk.
Love
We
it.
adjust. We work on the fly and we improv and we have fun doing this show every week. Thanks for joining me, Ben.
Oh, absolute pleasure.
Always
Thank you,
a
Chris.
pleasure. Always a pleasure having you. Can't wait to have you back. And until next week, on behalf of all of us at Omni Talk, on behalf of Ben, the Shop Talk team, everyone, producer Ella, as always, be careful out there.